Hello, my wee little book nerds, my little bookworms. My book nerds, my bookworms, or even my book dragons. How are you doing on this fine day? You had a good day? You been good? You enjoyed your day?
Poorly.
I don't know why I have an obsession with saying that. I don't know. But if you're new here, hello, my name is Noah, and welcome to my channel. But this video is something that I've wanted to do for a while, but I also find it very difficult to talk about because horror has many subgenres, and what my opinions for beginner books would be, other people, have different opinions, and they would probably say, maybe not them, go for these instead. These are my own little opinions for what I would class as beginner books, but I would love to know what your thoughts would be as well, and what you would also class as beginner books. But yes, so we're gonna go straight into this. So, cosmic horror. Now, this is something that when I first got into horror, cosmic horror was my first go-to, and a lot of people would say, oh, Lovecraft. A lot of people would go for, let's say, Call of Cthulhu or Dagon. That was not my first stories that I read from Lovecraft. Mine was actually Mountains of Madness, but that is not one I would recommend either, because not only is it a long story of his, but also it's more descriptive writing just to build up the story to get from A to B, and people can find that very boring and it can feel like it's dragging on. What I would go with is Horror at Martin's Beach. Now, this was published in 1922, and a lot of places will show it as that it was written by Lovecraft, when it was not. It was actually written by his wife, Sonia Green. He just kind of did a little bit of help with a bit of the publishing and put some little bits and bobs into it. What this is about is a fisherman with his crew has a 40-hour-long battle with this sort of marine beast, and brings the body back to a place where he then advertises it. And from that point on, all these strange things start to happen. And the main thing is that the question that it leaves you with is hypnotic powers confined to recognized humanity? It's a very short read. It's not too much, doesn't go straight into it. The best thing that I would always recommend this is it's a short read, but also Sonia Green adds something that Lovecraft has never been able to add into his stories, which is it's a woman's touch. It's a very motherly. It's a motherly touch more that she puts onto it, and that itself just shows the horror of what not only people can be, but also what happens on Martin's Beach. Second one, we're going to be going into Gothic Horror. Now, Gothic Horror is a difficult thing. I recently just read a Gothic Horror book, which I did not enjoy, because it was more of a lie than anything. And there's quite a lot of books out there that do have that sort of gimmick to it, like, oh, this is a Gothic Horror, but it's not. The one that I would like to recommend it's a very short story known as The Shadows on the Wall by Mary E. Wilkins Freeman. This was published in 1903. I think it's roughly around 30 pages, so it is a very...
Jenny!
No! Wait, let me put my phone on silent. That would probably help. Where was I? It's a very short book. It's 30 pages. This all revolves around... I'm not obviously going to ruin anything for you, but it revolves around arguing siblings. There was originally 5. 1 died. It's 3 sisters and a brother left. And it's all about them arguing, dealing with it, with grief more than anything, but also pointing fingers at each other and trying to see and kind of trying to figure out what happened to their sibling that has died, because it wasn't normal, but also the fact that as they are talking, trying to talk this out between each other and argue, and as the days pass, there seems to be a shadow on the wall that seems to something just be 1 but 2. And so on and so forth, and it's all about, it has this sort of paranormal sort of feel to it, it has the eerie factor, it's described very beautifully. Future me, I forgot to ask a question for you all. This is something that me and Ven talked about when we were live the other day, and it was, when you read, how do you read? For me, I read it word by, when I read a book, I read it word by word, and in my mind, I imagine what I'm reading, because when people read, sometimes people can hear voices in their head. I don't get that. I have images that come into my head. But Ven is the opposite from me. So, how do you read? Do you hear your own voice reading back to you, or do you get images, or what is the way that you actually do? Anyway, back with the video. Number 3. This one was a tough one. This is nature horror. So that horror to do with things with nature actually freaks me out. I'm terrified of nature, not just because nature is you know, the natural disasters. They freak me out. This kind of has that, but it also goes into sort of like plant life, animals, and so on and so forth. So what I would say is a very good beginner book to go through is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Now, this is a rewriting of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. Some people will struggle with The House of Usher with Edgar Allan Poe because of the writings back then, but this really does bring it up to date. This was published in 2022. It is 177 pages, 177 pages, and is the first book in the Sworn Soldier series. I have the second book just behind me that I technically shouldn't even have, that arrived early, which is called What Feasts at Night. But What Moves the Dead, a retired soldier, I struggle with the word so much, a retired soldier gets a letter from an old childhood friend basically saying, I'm dying, you know, come and see me. And as they go to the place, as they travel and get there, and they see the place, the people there and everything, they realize things are not as they should be. A lot of strange things are happening. It's pretty much like a nightmare-fueled sort of days more than anything. And it's just very creepy. There's certain bits when I read this that it gave me shivers, it gave me chills, and even like it's been so long since I've done it, I've even done the review and I've read the book, it's still something that I think about every now and then, because I'm just like, wow, that was a really creepy thing to put in, because some bits that happen in it don't necessarily happen in the original book, but they definitely put their own spin on it. It was beautiful and it's very creepy, and I absolutely recommend that book to get into sort of like the nature sort of horror to do with like plant life and so on and so forth. The next thing we have is comedy / mystery sort of horror, and it's one that I always talk about that I really want some people to read. I need more people to read, to be honest, and that is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. I love this book to bits. It was published 2017. It is 322 pages. This is the biggest book that is on my list. It is technically a homage to the Scooby-Doo gang, and it's all about how, what if they grew up, became the adults they were supposed to be, and they kind of separated and became their own people, but had to come back together again. And it's all about how they go back to an old case that traumatized them all, and they want to basically go back to where it all started and figure out what happened, because something is not right with how everything ended for them there. And I absolutely love it. It's something that I have read multiple times since, and I just think it's such a fantastic read. There's a lot of jokes in there, a lot of humor, but it also keeps hold of the mystery and eeriness and the horror aspects itself as well. Number 5 for Splatterpunk. Now, this one I kind of struggled a little bit with, because I don't read a lot of Splatterpunk. The most kind of sort of Splatterpunk that I've read was Extreme Horror. When I did that for a month, that was an experience. But the best one that I could probably say is The Blood Beast Mutations by Carl John Lee. It's a very short book. It's only 93 pages. It was published in 2020. And it's all about how this pandemic, it was written around this, when it was quite dark as well, when the pandemic hit us. So you can guess where it's going to go. But it's all about this pandemic and how the government kind of just, it's, you know, they lied just like they did IRL. But it's all about how this person realized what kind of pandemic it is. Things are not going well. There are these sorts of mutations going on, and that people are becoming monsters, not only just showing their true colors of themselves, but also they are mutating. I won't go into it much more than that. I don't think this will age well as time goes on, though, but for the moment, it is a good read. It still has some humor and some bits where you can have a giggle and a laugh. It's not too gory as much as Splatterpunk goes, so it's more of like a beginner sort of one, because sometimes Splatterpunk can get a bit crazy. This one I feel is not as crazy as the others I have read, so it's a bit easier on people themselves. But yeah, that is my video for now. I'm kind of thinking of doing this once a year to see how we upgrade? No. How my opinions change on these and what other things I would sort of recommend. Because I know there's quite a lot of other subgenres that I do need to go into. But we'll get there eventually. Once a year we will do this. See how things change for us as the years go on. But thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Stay awesome, stay amazing, and I'll catch you later. Love, love.